What are some things that people don't realize would happen if there was actually a zombie outbreak? Story 1. Most of the survivors after the initial collapse wouldn't perish because of the zombies. Fire. As millions of people flee into the wilderness, they'll begin making fires for warmth, security, cooking food, and boiling water. Many of these fires, set and maintained by inexperienced refugees, will get out of control in a world without firefighters. Others will be started deliberately by people trying to stop zombies or accidentally during battles between factions of survivors. Buildings will and prairies and forests, chemical plants, and God help us, probably more than one nuclear plant in the world, will ignite as their contents go unmonitored and untended. And this is added to the more than 20,000 started every year in the United States by lightning strikes. Not only will there be huge clouds of smoke to deal with and raging wild, but the long-term effects of these will hurt the chances of any survivors. The release of all those aerosols will suppress cloud formation, meaning the year or two following the initial collapse will be cold and dry, and any storms that do appear will be much stronger. Campsites will be buried in snow or washed away by mudslides. Then forests are hit by spring flooding. Disease. The abandoned cities, filled with millions of corpses and pets and tons of food for all of them, will breed a bumper crop of scavengers. Rats, opossums, raccoons, cockroaches, flies, they'll all feast. The same will apply in the rural countryside, where the CAFOS, concentrated animal feeding operations, will fall one by one. In many, the farmers will have opened the doors for their pigs and chickens and cows. In others, zombies will pick off the livestock, shambling through the cows and eating until they rupture their own guts. In many, though, thousands of animals will in piles, and their decomposing will rivers with mosquitoes will breed in the billions as basements flood and buildings collapse and water pools in the nooks and crannies of overturned cars. At first, the refugee camps will set up boilers for their water and ingenious gravity-powered charcoal filters. But bit by bit, this improvised infrastructure will be abandoned as survivors flee. Many people will have to drink from rivers tainted by chemical spills, gasoline, animals, or simply a zombie upstream that got its leg pinned under a rock. Many others will eat food contaminated by roaches or rats. Many people will simply do their best to deal with their waste in a world without toilet paper or hand sanitizer. And dysentery, cholera, cryptosporidium. They'll take millions. Exposure. Most people won't lives in the first couple of months, but many will in that first winter, which will be much harsher than usual. They'll underestimate the power of the colds. They'll underestimate how much to eat, how much they should cover up. They'll be running in tennis shoes through 3-foot drifts. And as survivors become truly desperate, competition for food and the best shelters will spawn a new wave of Story 2. It's stupidly easy to contain a zombie infection. Realistically, even if a bunch of people got infected and there's no going back once you've turned, then there's really nothing stopping cops or the military from dumping everything they see that makes a zombie sound or just carpet bombing whatever horde they see from the sky. They'd probably mount automatic shotguns to the sides and fronts of cars and drive around downtown blasting everything in a 360-degree radius. Heck, knowing today's world, Jeff Bezos would probably retrofit the Walmart robot to casually push zombies away from the storefront with an oversized broom. Shoot, they wouldn't even have to use bullets. Hop on the APC and run them over. What is a zombie gonna do against a 160mm of steel alloy armor moving over it at 40 miles per hour? Also, the only headshots count would be a movie thing only. A zombie that's been detonated to bits and whose only danger is me tripping on it is not a threat. All you gotta do is render them immobile or unfunctional. Horror movie tropes aside, a crawling zombie with no arms and legs would still be pathetically easy to avoid. Do me a favor, get a friend, get on your belly, and try to play catch with him while crawling without using your arms and legs. You can't. Unless those zombies learn to do the worm, we're pretty safe if we give them a good baseball bat to the knees. Even if we are dealing with a total apocalypse scenario, what most people don't realize is that a zombie's worst enemy is the weather. Florida zombies become goo in less than 2 weeks. Alaska zombies turn into a popsicle in the first 36 hours. That is, if a gator doesn't get them, or a bear. Also, calories must be consumed to sustain brain and muscle activity. People can say what they want about zombies, but the common consensus is the body doesn't move without a working brain and muscle system, undead or not. And most lore states that zombies are not paranormal, so this means a zombie gotta eat if he wants to move. If he doesn't eat, then his body will consume his muscle tissue to keep other bodily functions going. If 99% of the population has turned into zombies, what will they eat? Each other? They'd be walking beef jerky sticks at this point. No magical virus is going to keep your decaying body from getting affected by things like time, weather, the sun, and carrion. It will rot, and from the perspective of a bear, a zombie would equal about 180 pounds of shuffling free meat that is only dangerous to the hairless human apes. A zombie would be walking buffet to cats, dogs, birds, bears, frick, everything that enjoys a free lunch. A zombie outbreak would be equal to a worldwide horror-themed holiday. A vampire outbreak, on the other hand, well, I suppose we'd also be safe with that one, if only we did not invite the frickers inside. Story 3. Holding up anywhere in a city, or even on the city side of a suburb, is a losing proposition. Sure, there's lots of supplies in the city, but there's no food, and virtually no water, and lots and lots and lots of zombies. And those supplies? Yeah, they were all looted in the first frantic days, and are now dispersed all over the place in individual hidey holes in random buildings. Won't be able to just go to the Home Depot after the initial panic has been resolved and expect there to be anything worth having. And the roads? They're going to be completely clogged with dead cars, likely filled with zombies. So you're not going to be able to just find a car with gas and drive out of the city either. So you'll be stuck with no supplies but what you could hold on to during those first few days, with little food, no water, no safe way of moving around, and millions of zombies. Story 4. Once the zombie virus hits, that doesn't mean that other diseases, natural dangers, accidental injuries, and predatory animals no longer exist. You also won't have easy access to things like flu shots, hydrogen peroxide, etc. Also, lots of people say that once the zombie virus hits, they'd go hole up in a Costco or something because of all the supplies. However, what they don't understand is that everyone is going to go hole up in a Costco. And I think that while you should have a zombie survival team with you, you definitely don't want half of a city in your hideout. Personally, I'm going to go hit up a Dino Mart or something when the zombie virus strikes. Nobody's going to be looting Dino Mart. Story 5. A lot of people with minor health issues would be more disadvantaged than people realize. Take a peanut allergy, for example. In a zombie apocalypse where food is scarce, how can you ensure that what you're eating hasn't come in contact with peanuts? People with gluten allergies would have it even worse. So many zombie apocalypse staples would be inedible to them. People with relevant survival skills would be rare, since most people have jobs that wouldn't help them at all in a zombie apocalypse. Office workers, waitresses, etc. Then mechanics, carpenters, and farmers would be extremely valuable. Even if they just did it as a hobby, they would be fought over, maybe even enslaved. Story 6. The amount of time they punch zombies in the face or head with no protection on their hands. Knuckles split easily from punching. Congratulations, you're now a zombie from punching one. Smashing a zombie head with a blunt object will create a spray or a mist of blood. Get this in your respiratory system, you're infected. They don't immediately head north to a climate where it freezes. Exposed to the elements zombies equals frozen zombies. Everyone is always really loud. I feel like I'd be the only one whispering, "Psst, shut the F up. If you haven't noticed, there are zombies everywhere." Story 7. People don't realize how quickly it would burn itself out. What gives humans any competitive edge, evolutionarily speaking, is the very thing zombies lack. The brain. Humans without brains are a C-tier animal, at best. That will have some luck in an initial outbreak of feeding and fighting, but will be bested by deer and foxes. This says nothing about the continued decomposition that will inevitably render locomotive abilities useless. Humanity's second biggest strength. Zombies are humanity minus anything that gives them an advantage at anything. Why are we afraid of them again? Story 8. The shelf life of gasoline. On its own, gasoline has a shelf life of about 3 months. After that, it starts to break down chemically. Ethanol blends can be a little shorter than that. How many zombie movies have you seen where someone pulls up to a gas station and somehow pumps themselves a tank full of gas long after the zombie plague has swept over the area? That gas is useless, and that's before we even get into the issue of what's running the pumps. Story 9. Libraries. You never see people in those movies collecting books when they would provide so much knowledge. You can't Google things anymore, and there won't be experts around for everything like there are now. One of the priorities should be to preserve as much knowledge as possible and have the survivors study it. If you have to rebuild an entire civilization, you might as well get a head start. Story 10. The government wouldn't collapse as quickly as most people imagine. Most movies depict the entire nation's structure crumbling in a matter of weeks, sometimes days. This is pretty illogical, considering how large most nations' militaries are and how many options and opportunities the government would have to contain the virus in the first place. Martial law is a powerful device. Story 11. The zombie, as a species, is designed for failure. Its chief food source, the living human, is also its only method of reproduction, and its number one predator. That predator is smarter, faster, more mobile, probably stronger, and more creative than it can ever be. And it can be taught, in a ridiculously short time, to kill a zombie from 50 or 100 yards away, with reasonable reliability. Story 12. As a wearer of glasses, what the F do I do when I lose or break them? Do I have to take my 3 spare old sets around with me? Do I just duct tape my glasses onto my head? But then how do I sleep? If I lose them, do I have to go to an optician and somehow make my own and hope that they have my lenses in? I mean, I'm really blind. If my glasses go, so do I. It really concerns me. Story 13. The stuff will probably hit the fan at a very inconvenient time. People spend a large part of their waking life at work. You won't be home surrounded by your supplies and weapons when you find out zombies are attacking. You'll probably be at work, surrounded by your useless colleagues, with safety scissors as the most effective weapon in your grasp. Story 14. A lot of people would perish from zombie bites, but even more would perish from diseases, only treatable with antibiotics, insulin, and chemotherapy. When the world collapses, everything collapses. You might dodge a zombie bite, but then perish from a scratch on your leg from where you brushed against a rusty nail to make that dodge happen. Story 15. The safest place you can go is your nearest military base. If one is too far away, chances are you have a National Guard armory close by. I hate zombie shows that act like the military would get overrun by zombies. The U.S. military is designed in such a way to be self-sustained. There is no way the military would go down in a zombie invasion. Story 16. Boats. Want to survive the zombie apocalypse? Steal a yacht. Zombies don't swim. Even in the fiction where they can survive ocean pressures and walk on the seafloor out to islands, they can't swim up to boats that are far enough away from land. Personally, I think Waterworld was just a sequel to a zombie flick. Story 17. Imagine breaking your glasses while fighting off zombies. Without my glasses, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a zombie and a survivor unless they're within arm's reach. Forget about sneaking around. I need my fellow survivors to identify themselves, so I don't attack them. Story 18. Mass starvation of survivors as the outbreak spreads. Most grocery stores have 3 days of stock, so once the food industry is disrupted, people are left with whatever they have on hand. And once that's gone, it's starve, eat people, eat zombies, or commit seppuku. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.